Users of Reddit, what was the worst mistake you ever made? Student loans. Especially realizing that you never needed college in the first place to make it. I'm with you on this one. I'm 44 and just finished paying off my loan. Meanwhile, the guys I graduated with that went straight into the trades have their houses paid off, nice vehicles, nice vacations, and lots of toys. I made many mistakes growing up, but here's one that stands out the most. In early high school, I hurt people emotionally through targeted bullying and social exclusion. I was picked on for many years prior to this, so it was mostly redirected anger. I hated the world and most of the people around me. However, this changed during the later years of high school and I started accepting people and vice versa. I'm not sure how this came about. I'm in my 30s now and a completely different person. I get emotional thinking of all the times I've made people's lives hell for no reason, and it's hard to forgive myself for it. If you are going or went through a tough time in school as a result of bullying, I'd like to apologize on behalf of the bullies. Most of them will certainly regret it at some point. I was bullied in school. I remember one time sitting outside class on the stairs and just crying my eyes out cause I didn't want to go back and get mocked again, and my mother had to pull me out. I switched schools and was okay after. It has left me with some trust issues, I will admit, but if it helps, I have also forgiven those kids and don't really think about them except once in a blue moon and in a, oh well, guess that happened type of way. It's good that you're sorry and please do forgive yourself. Already too much hate and sadness in the world. Wish you all the best going forward. Talking to police without a lawyer. Don't do that, kids. I took a legal class where they told us about a hairdresser who was being stalked by her ex. When she left work, after dark, she slipped a pair of shearing scissors in her coat pocket, just in case, because her ex had ambushed her in the parking lot of her apartment complex before. On the way home she was pulled over. The officer noticed the handle of the scissors poking out and asked what they were. She explained they were precautionary, in case her ex attacked her again. She was arrested for having a concealed weapon she failed to notify the officer about. Because she intended to use the scissors as a weapon, legally they were a weapon. If she had just said the scissors were from work, and she accidentally left them in her pocket, they wouldn't have been considered a weapon and she would have been fine. Spending 11 years in retail. Seemed like a great idea at the time, better and less toxic than my previous seasonal job. I was dumb and believed that giving it my all and being devoted to the company would take me places. Got passed over for numerous promotions, got screwed over by friends who didn't care who they had to step on to get themselves ahead, and ended up getting fired on a technicality over a decade in because a coworker was gunning for my job. In retrospect, it was the best thing that ever happened to me work-wise. I had been stuck in a rut and my self-esteem had been so beat down I was convinced I didn't deserve better. Thank goodness I ended up in a job I love with great people. I just regret the time wasted. Got stuck on my balcony before work one morning. Door latched as I shut it. Was approximately 6 feet off ground, so I decided to jump off. Landed on my feet. Grass was wet, feet slipped. Fractured 3 vertebrae, spent 9 months in a hospital bed. Holy shit. How are you now? I'm great, actually. I had some problems with muscle atrophy once I was able to be mobile. So, I bought a gym membership and got to work. Once I got muscle mass back, I was completely fine. Full range of motion, everything. Spine specialist who I met with at the end of all this told me that I pretty much stuck the landing as I shot all the bone fragments into my abdomen and not through my spinal cord. This was 16 years ago. Occasionally, once or twice a year, I get a sore back for a day or two. Not watching a movie with my dad before he died from cancer. My dad was months into his chemo treatments at this point, and he just asked me one day if I wanted to watch some old movies with him for a bit. I declined and said I needed to work on school stuff. I was living at home at the time, and I was taking about 15 hours of classes, so I was generally busy, but not then. It tore me apart to see my dad that way. The drugs had been rough on him, and it pained me to see him like that. My dad passed maybe a month or two later, and it is still to this day my biggest regret. We both loved movies, and I would give anything to go back and watch anything with him. I still randomly have moments of despair thinking about it, and I know he would not want me to continue beating myself up, but it's hard. Don't have regrets like me. Spend those precious moments with your loved ones. I'm a dad. Trust me, he didn't mind. Probably was proud to see you working hard and getting work done. I know I would be. I also know you dad would not want you holding on to that regret. I skipped a class for organic chemistry in college before finals. Didn't get the memo that final exams would be given in a different room. Showed up 45 minutes late and my professor wouldn't let me in. I failed the class and nearly failed out of college that semester. I was on academic probation after that. Something similar happened to my son this spring. His college algebra class was online. He assumed his final would also be online. He found out too late it was in person. Showed up about 40 minutes late and wasn't allowed to take the test. He emailed his teacher immediately and she ignored him. Got an F in the class when he did have an A previously. Now he gets to pay to retake the class. Did he appeal this to the department head? Or the dean of students? I'm assuming there was no written notice of where the exam would be. There was probably written notice. However, he was confused about the process and a week before the test he emailed the teacher for clarification. She gave the vaguest answer ever. Ultimately, it's his fault and we won't pay for him to retake the class. But I do think the teacher should have been more helpful when he asked beforehand. I read the email he sent and it was pretty clear he thought it was online. Bring on a sleazy business partner whose shenanigans put me under. Even 25 years later, if he stepped in front of my car, I wouldn't even think of tapping the brakes. Dealing with this now, it's brutal. He's embezzled almost $1 million. I feel you. That's even worse than my story. Mine didn't do that. He just started a side business without telling me until it was too late. He'd already signed the lease and was on the hook for hundreds of thousands. I pointed out that, because we were a subchapter S, his credit affected the credit of the company. The guy's antique dealership closed a year later. When I asked if he had resolved his credit issues, he said, all cleared up. And I was a big enough idiot to believe him. What he didn't tell me is that he had declared bankruptcy and was interviewing for a job out of town. He literally got up in the middle of our second largest client's strategic planning meeting and never came back. 3 months later, when I'm about to tap into what had been my pristine credit to buy out his stock, I was told by the bank that we had filed for bankruptcy. After all, if one shareholder files, then the company is bankrupt. News to me. As a result, I couldn't borrow a dime. He never told me a thing about it. Because my company's credit was now fucked up beyond recognition, it absolutely destroyed my vendor relationships. I couldn't do anything. I had to fold and file bankruptcy myself. This with a business that I had spent 8 years building into $5 million in annual sales. Poof. Gone. Mind you, I made big mistakes in how I handled it. The minute I found out he had opened a side business, I should have given him the option of shutting down that side gig or forfeiting his shares of stock. But I was kind of naive and trusting. Took an antibiotic for a possible infection I never had to begin with that the doctor gave me. Didn't realize the medication was banned in certain countries and has a black box warning. Doc called a week later after I had taken it for 6 days and says I actually didn't have an infection. Antibiotics were never necessary. I now am disabled and have full body small fiber neuropathy from it among other things at 25 years old. It affects my vision, bladder, muscles, walking, etc. Nerve damage all over. Had this for 2 years now. Life is a struggle unfortunately. Can I ask what drug this was? My doctor recently wrote me a prescription for a last resort antibiotic. My pharmacist pulled me aside and asked a couple questions and said if I was her kid she would tell me to get a second opinion, so I did, and the new doctor was mortified. I can't remember the exact drug name, but it started with an L, I think. It was probably Levaquin. Stay away from that and Cipro at all costs. They are fluoroquinolones, and disable a bunch of people. I took Bactrim, it got me so bad. Not all medications are dangerous or have permanent side effects, but a lot of antibiotics are. They can attack your gut and nerves throughout your body. Quitting college to take a management promotion at my fast food job. I almost did this. Was working fast food as a shift manager and going to a nearby community college in the early 2000s. Our store manager had just quit and they were looking to replace them. There were 2 options. One guy who was already the assistant manager and wanted to make me his assistant when he was store manager. This meant a salaried job making about $45,000 to $55,000 a year, again, early 2000s. The other was a guy from another store who wanted to bring in his own people. They ended up bringing in the guy from the other store. That guy proceeded to fire every single shift manager except one and bring in all his friends to work the restaurant. Myself included, I ended up fired. I can say this with hindsight, one of the best things that ever happened to me in my life. It motivated me to get off my ass and go away to college, get the campus experience, where I met my now wife. Fun postscript, the one manager they kept was a buddy of mine who we always jokingly called him a Clifer. He still works for the company, just at a different store. When I went home for a holiday break, around 2010 or so, I saw the manager that fired me, and he was stocking shelves at the local Walmart. That's what prompted me to contact my old buddy and ask if he knew anything, and he laid out the story for me. The guy that fired me and brought in his friends ended up being fired himself when he was caught stealing cash at the end of the night. He, and his friends, would underring customers, miscount drawers and blame others for the error. This is how he got 3 people fired, and just generally do their best to rob the place blind. Apparently this lasted for 3 years. Eventually he got caught when they installed new security cameras. Apparently the store constantly having miscounted drawers caused corporate to install cameras on every single register and the manager's desk. Store manager somehow didn't know they actively recorded and kept the footage for 48 hours. He thought they could only see live shots. He was apparently telling his friends that they could still do what they did, because corporate wasn't going to pay someone to watch the cameras all day every day. When a drawer was short $150, he of course blamed the cashier he wanted to fire. Corporate came in and said they'd review the footage. According to my buddy, the manager turned white and realized he was fucked. Corporate reviewed the footage and saw him remove the cash himself. He was shit-canned immediately, and a bunch of his friends quit with him in solidarity, saying he was framed. It was only $150 they could prove, so he wasn't prosecuted for it. I cheated on the love of my life. Ruined an amazing thing. First and last time I ever make that mistake. Why did you? Just curious. Did you confess? Didn't have the strength to. Someone else did it for me. I don't really know why I did it. I guess I liked the attention. It wasn't even fun in the moment. I guess some mistakes you just have to make yourself before you realize why people tell you not to do it, you know? She wasn't the love of my life, but I still regret doing the same thing to my last ex. Sometimes I try to forgive myself because I was just a stupid kid who didn't know what he wanted, but it never works. I don't think I ever will forgive myself, but I guess at least I'll never do something like that again. Got offered an internal promotion for double salary job as a JavaScript developer. I was PHP mainly at time, at UK FTSE 100 company, and declined because I was humble about my skills / didn't want to cause issues. Now I'm 8 years wiser and realize no one knows what they're doing, and I would have been fine with 20 hours on Udemy. I don't feel like I've any major mistakes in my life. Just a long series of small, seemingly inconsequential, ones that stacked on top of each other. Sometimes it feels like my entire life is a gigantic mistake without beginning or end. I really can't point to a singular decision. When I was a kid, we used to ride our bikes to the top of a hill and pedal as fast as we could down to the beginning of a sidewalk that was pushed up by tree roots, and we would hit super sick jumps off them. No helmet. My bike's front wheel and handlebars became loose from the abuse, and when I landed my handles were straight, but the wheel sent me right into a tree. Went over the handlebars head first and hit the tree. Knocked out cold. From what people tell me, my personality changed, as did my penmanship, grades and everything. We had the same setup in front of our house when I was young. All the daredevils in the neighborhood would speed down the hill on their bikes and big wheels, launch over the buckled up sidewalk and end up crashing. My poor mom had to bandage and comfort many children in those days. Her dream was for the town to remove the damn tree and fix the sidewalk. It's subject to debate whether it was the trauma from all the crashes or his dad's alcohol abuse that messed up the neighbor's kid. Trying heroin. Spent 6 years chasing that dragon. I'm now 5 years clean though. Edit. Thank you all for the well wishes, and the sharing of your struggle / journey with addiction. If you know someone struggling, or you are someone struggling, the Vivitrol shot was a massive help. It's not addictive, can't be traded or sold, and helped me immensely. That, and a flock of chickens. Dorky guy in our graphics lab at school was trying to convince us to buy Apple stock as we struggled with our POS Power PC 6300s. No man, they're rehiring the CEO they fired. He started the company, he's like, visionary. He's gonna resurrect them. Right. My husband is forever pissed at his mom for not getting him stock in Google on his 13th birthday like he asked for. Apparently her response was, the internet is just a fad. So she bought him a skateboard or something. My dad still talks about how his friends tried to convince him to invest in some expensive coffee shop. My dad said it was dumb since no one wanted a $3 cup of coffee they could make at home. It was Starbucks in the early 90s. I let go someone who was really good for me because of chronic depression and insecurities, and now here I am, alone because of it. I know that feel. She was the kindest, smartest, and most motivated woman I've ever known. We dated when she moved to town for a summer internship before her senior year of college. We started out telling each other we were just hanging out, nothing serious since she was going to be moving to another state after graduation. We had a great summer, and I ended up visiting her at school a few times in the fall. When the time came for her to move is when we realized we'd both caught feelings for each other and confessed our love. She asked me to move with her, and I said I couldn't move that far away from my friends and family, but the truth was, I was afraid I'd hold her back from reaching her potential, and was afraid my anxiety and depression would end up destroying our relationship. That was 20-ish years ago, and I've regretted that decision ever since. I've yet to find a partner that has made me feel as cared for and loved as she did. Deciding to have an abortion for the wrong reasons. I do not regret the abortion, but I hold a lot of resentment about how it happened. I panicked as a teenager, rushed my ex through it, didn't even give him a chance to talk to me because I was so horrified at being talked about within my family and my relatives judging me and being the first to not only have a child outside of marriage. But teen pregnancy was unfathomable to me. I'm 28 now and them relatives are not a factor in my life, and I'm very bitter about how I rushed myself and my ex and basically trauma blocked it out my head because of the opinion of those who didn't matter. The only opinions that mattered were mine and my partner's, and I didn't think about either. My ex suffered a lot with him mental health afterwards, not because he wanted to keep the baby, but how rushed, manic and honestly just selfish I was during it. Give yourself grace. You did the best you could with the tools you had at the time. Thank you. I wish I could go back and just stop for a minute to breathe and think of other outcomes/choices, but I was so scared and delirious. My ex wrote a note before trying to take his own life 3 years after we broke up and sent it to my house. He was found and survived. It said he'll never forget them few weeks and that he wishes he could have stopped everything in its tracks and asked for help and apologized for not trying to take some control over the situation. I think I scared my ex with how scared I was. I told a guy it was okay to eat a piece of cheesecake at my good friend's wedding. I was an out-of-town bridesmaid, so I wasn't aware that she had chosen cheesecake as her wedding cake. She had a meltdown when she realized her guests were eating the wedding cake before she came down for the reception. It was all my fault because I was the one who said, sure, when someone asked me if they could eat it. Okay, so not the worst mistake I ever made in my life. But I'd never intend to screw up someone's wedding or reception on their special day. I killed 38 chickens by pure mistake. I was 10 and wanted to let my parents know how many chickens we had. So I started placing them in a barrel as I counted them. At some point I noticed it was way quieter and dumped the barrel over to see what was going on. I didn't understand at the time that stacking things in an enclosed space creates a breathing issue. So now we had all these dead chickens, including our beloved Birdzilla. After attempting chicken CPR, which obviously didn't work, I came into my house bawling that I was a chicken murdered and needed to go to jail. Once my parents fully understood what was going on, they laughed so damn hard and said my punishment was to bury the chickens and I was punishing myself hard enough, and my dad explained how O2 worked. Talked a little about this in other posts, but my decision to stay and try to help my mom. After my grandmother died, my cousin and I were set to inherit a house, but we gave our halves to her. At the time I was living in Europe, in Budapest, for 3.5 years. I was so close to residency. Then I saw she was having trouble financially when I came to visit for a family reunion. I had a return ticket, my jobs, but I fucking stayed because I felt bad. We set agreements, that I would pay half of everything and then later give her a bit extra so I can save to help my fiancé come here. That in order for this to work, I'd like to live in the house so I'm not paying rent somewhere plus half of the bills, and I wanted to be around the dogs, which I also take care of. Then she took advantage of this by buying more things and investing in the house, which she agreed to sell because she can't afford it without someone helping her. Immediately after I didn't have a way back, things changed. She hated my now ex-partner and would demand time and time again we break up, even though she was nothing but kind to her. She decided she wanted more money immediately. She has threatened to kill herself by putting a gun to her head, pushed me, hit me, tried to choke me, because she would start conflicts and not let me walk away, or didn't like what I had to say. She's tried to cut me off from other parts of the family that know and want to help me. I lost everything because of this decision, but I'm slowly rebuilding, and I think next year I'll be able to find my way back, maybe to Prague this time, or back to Budapest. I don't know, I just want the life I had back, and this time she won't get to be a part of it. Give the gift of not being there. Yeah, leaving in a month. Doing market research, job is paying for flat for 6 months. Should be enough time to save enough to get back where I want to be permanently. Good for you. I'm certain you'll soon find real, stable happiness in your life. Thank you. Listened to a teacher that said I wasn't smart enough for uni. Been questioning and doubting myself ever since. Honestly, uni has nothing to do with intelligence, nor intelligence with success. Yes, sure, it makes certain things easier to get into, but I know plenty of dumbasses that went to uni, and plenty of successful dropouts. Don't let what your teacher said become a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you want to go to uni, then prove your teacher wrong and do it. Giving all my best in my last company, had almost no much social life. I was a workaholic. I was like the best developer, thinking it would all result to something just to eventually get laid off. This is an important lesson that I need to remind myself of. You don't ever owe any company anything other than what you are required to do in your job description between each paycheck, because the moment they can get away with getting rid of you at the drop of a hat to increase their profit margin ever so slightly, they'll not even think twice. I'm sorry that happened to you and hope you now have a job you're enjoying a lot more. Thinking love. Romantic love wasn't real. I broke his heart, turned down his marriage proposal, and tried so hard to ignore my feelings. He left to build a life elsewhere because I refused to believe in my feelings. I spent most of my life in an abusive, coercive, nightmarish relationship. I feel like I deserved it, stupid really. I'm free now. The one man I've ever loved, and I recently reconnected. 20 years later, and I'm still in love with him. I wish you two the best, hopefully he's not married. In similar stitch, but my guy is married, according to Facebook, so I'll never contact him. He's not single. Because we are now together. He basically waited for me. And I'm sorry for your situation. If you don't mind me asking, how did you reconnect? My autistic daughter messaged him. She said, "Deserve to be happy." Was teaching undergraduate students, and now ex-friend asked me to offer my students summer work producing this new thing called NFTs. I wasn't too familiar with what they were back then. This was about 5 years ago, and from what I read, it sounded like a kind of dumb concept, but easy summer work and cash for my students, so I pitched it to them. It turned out that the guy running the company was a notorious scammer who had already spent time in jail, and I had just exposed my students to his latest bullshit. I'm not the kind to overreact normally, but I was extremely proud of that job and the reputation that came with it. I thought it was the end of my career and any chance of ever being trusted by students again, so I panicked, tried, and thankfully failed, to end my life, and subsequently fell into a severe alcohol abuse problem and had to resign. I was extremely fortunate in that my bosses and team were mega supportive of me and looked out for me every step of the way. I couldn't have asked for more help than they gave me. It wasn't the end of my career at all, but I couldn't face teaching anymore after that. I'm now long-term sober and still work in academia, and I am so grateful to be back on my feet and didn't throw it all away over a momentary crisis. When I was 14, maybe, I went to use the bathroom, like any normal time. I pissed, wiped, flushed, washed my hands, and walked back to my room. Now this toilet has a habit of making that noise toilets make after you flush, but for about 2 minutes longer than normal. Nothing ever happened, till that night when my brother came running into my room telling me the whole living room and hallways was flooding and the toilet is overflowing and won't stop running. I walked out my room to see my mom freaking out. Now for some context, my family is lower class/middle class. My parents worked and they own the home, so we were lucky to have a roof to live under, but we never had extra money to go out to eat or go to movies or even vacations. We always ate very basic and easy meals so my parents could afford the home and bills. I never even left my home state till I was 16, almost 17. My father also has a massive spending problem which leaves money very tight for my family. This was almost 9 years ago, mind you. Seeing the way my mom was reacting, seeing her crying and on her knees and begging for life to just stop being shitty for her, left a permanent image in my head. The only other time I've seen my mom cry like this was Christmas time, December 23, 2023, and that was being my dad left a note detailing how he was going to end his life. My mother was broken and that moment will forever haunt me. He's still alive, found him in time. Now the whole house was soaked and flooding and my mom was freaking trying to turn the water off and get the shop vac to suck up the water and crying and saying how she doesn't know where she's going to get the money to fix this and trying to figure out what bills she can push to pay for this. Yeah, I never told her or fessed up to it. They think it was older brother and I let them think it. It still haunts me and makes me want to cry thinking of her reaction to it. Marrying. Married a BPD woman who was enmeshed with her narcissistic personality disorder mother. All at having 2 kids, doubling down, in addition to marrying my now ex. I did what no other man before me, my ex's prior relationships, would do. Marry her and have kids with her. Didn't know what I was getting myself into. Marriage ruined me financially, emotionally, not getting married again. Had PTSD from domestic abuse and eventually developed cancer, which I'm in remission from. Before getting married, I had money saved for a down payment for a condo in the high cost of living area I live in. Ex-in-laws and ex pressured me to pay for stuff like a big fancy wedding, which I never wanted. I had 4 guests from my side, expensive honeymoon travel, lots of medical tests, pregnancy procedures not covered by insurance, paying rent on their expensive property. Everything was non-negotiable from the start. Do as your wife says or she divorces you and you'll never see your kids again. My house down payment, that I saved up for 10 years, squandered during a deteriorating 7-year marriage. When I refused to liquidate my 401k, they, my now ex and her parents, started playing hardball. I had constant scandals, kicked out of house, crazy drama from my ex over liquidating my 401k. She tore our framed marriage contract off the wall, threw it down from the 2nd story, just weird dramatic shitty behavior. Because she was put up to all the drama by her mother. Her mother was constantly on her, telling her they, the ex-in-laws, were subsidizing our marriage, that I wasn't pulling my weight as a father and husband. Eventually, her mom had her, my ex, assault me and I had no choice but to film her going off on me, physically assaulting me, and call the police. Ex fled the scene with her mom, took kids out of school, holed up in in-laws' house, police were useless, didn't pursue, DA didn't file DV charges. Had a long and expensive divorce and child custody battle, spent a lot of time getting dragged into court, was put on the witness stand by my abuser, lots of lies from ex and her parents, they withheld my kids from me for 6 months, strong-arm tactics, very messy, cost me over $200k in legal fees. Have full custody of the kids now, 10-year restraining order against ex. Ex is a deadbeat mom, refuses to work, trying to get disability on BS symptoms of electronic sensitivity and nausea while next to electronics, can't use computer, let her legal, state bar, license lapse on purpose. I'm glad it's over now. Regrets, my kids don't have any sort of relationship with their mother or her side of the family. I didn't believe they were doing this, pressuring me to surrender any and all money I had saved, to me while it was happening and didn't leave sooner. I kept trying to make the marriage work when the other side was continually trying to strong-arm me into surrendering my 401k. You can't make a marriage work when your in-laws and your wife are constantly trying to destroy it and take everything from you. I let these worthless people fuck up my life and I'm very cynical and jaded about marriage. Losing my premarital savings, gradually, to crooks. Not getting a prenup and transferring my savings to my parents before the marriage. I should have started with $0. That would have made the marriage runway short and ended things between me and my now ex within a year. In hindsight, it would have been less time and money wasted on these mental people. They don't deserve anyone's time or money. Total parasites, deserve to be exterminated like the filthy vermin they are.